Hi for those of you who have joined, and I'm sure we'll get some more latecomers as well, but I just wanted to go ahead and start, not take up too much of everyone's time. This will be sent out to the judges. Well, really everyone who's signed up, this will get sent to just so that those who haven't been able to attend will be able to see the information as well. This will be pretty informal. If you have any questions, jump in at any time. If you don't have a working mic, you can use the chat function. But yeah, I'm happy to have this be more of a conversation than a presentation. So thank you so much for signing up to judge the high school mock trial competition this weekend. Um, this presentation will really focus on this weekend's judging as opposed to state. We might do another Q&A for state next month when that gets a little bit closer. But this is really focused on this weekend's competition. That's in Wichita and in Kansas City. And that information is here. So the Kansas City competition details are here, the parking map, things like that. There will be coffee served in the morning if you get there early enough before the rounds, both in Kansas City and in Wichita. And then for those of you who have signed up to judge all day, there will be pizza served in between those morning and afternoon rounds. So I will be on the ground in Kansas City. My phone number is listed here. That's going to be the fastest way to get a hold of me, text or calling on the day of. The next few days, if you have any questions or conflicts, you can email that mock trial email that you've been getting information from. But on the day of in Kansas City, this cell number is really going to be the best way to reach me. For Wichita, my co-chair Ben is going to be on the ground in Wichita, and then our past chair Morgan will be there as well. So you might see some familiar faces. But Ben and Morgan will be on the ground. This is Ben's cell phone number. So for those of you in Wichita, you might want to have that information handy to use if any questions come up. Again, that's going to be the quickest way to get a hold of him on that day. I don't know that he will have access to the email on Saturday. So for all Wichita issues, please use that phone number for Ben. This first bracket here about timing, this is really for presiding judges, but really it applies to all judges, is that we are always short on time. We always go over longer than we hope to. The rounds are kind of built to go 90 minutes, so that there's a half hour leeway between rounds for everyone to, go to the bathroom, get water, get to the next room. Very rarely do rounds end in 90 minutes, especially this year. We do not have a novice division in either Wichita or Kansas City. So every team is going to be a varsity team. That means that they're more likely to go longer than a varsity round, which is or than a novice round, which typically goes a little shorter. So be sure that if you're the presiding judge, which I think I've got David signed up to be a presiding judge. I know some of you have also said that you'd be willing if needed. But for those of you whose names are up, I think David's the only one that I've got plugged in as a presiding judge right now. If you're, for those of you who don't have your names on your accounts, I'm not sure, but for the names I can see, the rest of you I've got as scoring judges. So the thing about timing that you scoring judges need to know is that when the round ends, we usually allow time for you to give comments to the teams. We would ask that feedback be limited to things that they can change for the next round. Things like, try to make eye contact with us, or you did really great on this point. I found that very compelling, hammer in on that, or that question was really interesting. Make sure you ask that every round. Things that they can apply to the next round that same day, as opposed to things that, would take the next year to work on. They'll have those comment sheets that they can look at after the tournament is over for those more intensive comments. But if the round is going close to 2 hours, please do not waste time on comments. We need to get the next round started as soon as possible. I need everybody's score sheets as soon as possible. Ben and I, because we'll be actually tallying up the scores in order to set the bracket for that fourth round. And then when the fourth round's over, we actually need to be tallying up those scores in real time to do a winner's presentation that day. So we really got to be conscious of what time the rounds end, making sure you're filling out those score sheets as soon as possible and getting those to us as soon as the round ends before you start giving comments to the teams. And again, if you're bumping up against that 2 hour mark, forgo the comments. They'll read your comment sheet later. Let's just keep it moving so that the teams have time to get lunch in between rounds, and then the judges have time to get home. It's a long day for those at the end of the day. So that's really what I have to say on timing. That's the biggest issue that we run into every year, is making sure the rounds stay on time. So yeah, presiding judges, especially when students are making objections, the time stops. So for the student to make the objection to you, for you to hear the objection, and then allow the other team to respond, the time stops. So if you allow a lot of back and forth between the students to say, oh, well, I think this, oh, well, that's not true because of this, and you go back and forth, or you're asking questions, or you're saying, well, do you want to reword the question? Things like that. If you're doing a lot of back and forth, that stops the time. So we really ask that you allow the student to make an objection, the other student to respond, and then quickly make a ruling. So not a lot of back and forth, because every time they make an objection, the time clock just stops, and then we're just waiting to resume. I do want to make a quick note on formality. We do set this up like an actual trial. So the students arrive in suits or the like. They're calling you your honor. They're trying to be very respectful. So we ask that you treat it with the same type of seriousness and decorum as you would a typical courtroom scenario. Now I'm not asking you to arrive in a suit and tie, but a button-up shirt, a collar, a dress, so something a little bit nicer than sweats or a polo or something like that. So we want the judges to treat it seriously so that the students treat it seriously as well. And we've had judges who were in their courtroom and they come in their robes, and the students get a real kick out of that. So just treating it with the respect that you would any other courtroom scenario. The case, I sent out the case materials. You have no reason that you need to be familiarizing yourself with the case materials. They're just there if you're interested or curious, or have a bunch of spare time and are bored. But you do not need to know anything going into Saturday ahead of time. This is just a resource for those who are curious. But it's a civil case this year. We go every other. Last year was criminal. This year's civil. And so the prosecutor puts on 3 witnesses and the defense puts on 3 witnesses. Each team should have 3 attorneys that are doing opening, direct examination, cross-examination, and closing arguments. They will have exhibits that they might present to you. So you might be looking at, the paper printouts that they provide you. But like I said, you don't need to know anything ahead of time. I also provided the jury instructions in case you were curious, and these are provided to the students along with all of the, pleadings that we give them. So these are the things that they're going to be focusing on trying to prove. But again, you don't need to know these ahead of time. They're just there if you're curious. So this is the score sheet that you're going to get for every round. You're going to fill one of these out every round. We sometimes try to get 4 judges around, so the presiding judge would not have to fill out the score sheet and only the scoring judges would. But this year we do not have enough judges in any round in any competition for the presiding judge to just preside. So for every single round on Saturday, the presiding judge will have to fill out this score sheet as well. So please make sure that you're remembering to fill the score sheet out no matter what your role is in the courtroom. And this is what I or Ben or Morgan or whoever it is that's helping me on the day of is going to come collect as soon as that round ends. So make sure you're putting a score in for every single one of these boxes. It cannot be a tie. So if you've got them both at 100 points, you're going to have to add or subtract one from one side or the other because we can't have a tie. So if we do the math and we find a tie, we'll just come back and ask you to change 1 point from one score. So every single line has to be filled out. You are not forced to fill out this deductions section. If you notice something glaring, you're welcome to deduce points, but I'm not going to be harping on that. And if one judge deducts and the other one doesn't, that's no problem at all. So don't worry too much about the rule violation deduction. The other thing that we provide is this kind of breakdown of what each score is meant to cover. And that's just to try to get a little bit of consistency across the judges so that you don't have one judge constantly giving, 90 to 110 and the other judge constantly giving 30 to 40. So this is trying to just keep everyone pretty consistent about what the scores mean. So I do suggest you read this through either this week or on the day. And this will be provided. Everything I'm showing you right now will be provided to you on the day of. So if you arrive early enough to take a quick look at this, I would highly suggest that. This is, again, some information about what each person's role is and what they are meant to be doing. So kind of things to pay attention to for each attorney versus witness. And then this is just kind of another explanation about the rule violations. But again, I'm not super concerned about that.
Hey, Meredith?
Yeah.
I noticed there was something about asking the questions properly. Are they expected to lay foundations for, as you would in the courtroom?
They are, yes. And this kind of goes to the rule violations. If you as the judge are thinking, well, I'm not sure they laid foundation for that correctly, I'm not worried about you taking a rule violation just for being concerned about that. However, if the other team objects and says lack of foundation, that is when you would kind of pay attention to that, and the presiding judge would have to pay attention and say, oh, well, did they lay the foundation? If not, that's sustained, try again. So that's kind of where that gets into in terms of.
Yeah, I hope the other side isn't going to raise objections to every questions, even though that's the way it works in real life. But
right, and some teams do. Some teams object to everything, and it gets very frustrating. And Stephen, I do have you down as a presiding judge. Thank you for putting your name up.
Okay.
So yes, I do have you down as presiding in Kansas City. So you and David right now are the two on here that I've got presiding. Yeah, like I said, if a student is objecting lack of foundation, and again, this will come in, especially if you haven't looked through the case materials, you'll be more aware of whether they've laid the foundation for their question, as opposed to, if you've already got all the background information in your head, you might not be as harsh on them for laying foundation because you already know the foundation is there. So that's just kind of a personal preference. But yeah, the lack of foundation, and then the other one is an unfair extrapolation. Those are the objections that we see a lot. Unfair extrapolation would be if a witness is testifying to something that isn't in the record or isn't in their witness statement, and they're kind of making something up unfairly. That's not a reasonable deduction. And that's kind of tough. Typically, I would just overrule the objection, but maybe, make a note if the reason that I suggest overruling the objection is because in kind of the competition's opinion, the better way to go about objecting to an unfair extrapolation is just proving in the record that they're wrong. So addressing the record, asking questions related to the record, and then maybe to your next witness, pointing out that whatever that witness said isn't in the record. That's how we prefer that students go about that unfair extrapolation. An objection on its own. And again, this is because the judges probably haven't read through or memorized the entire case materials prior to the competition. So you don't know what's in the record necessarily. So just objecting and saying unfair extrapolation, the presiding judge doesn't necessarily know whether that's true or not. So that's why we prefer that they do it through making their own case as opposed to just objecting.
Oh,
And again, to kind of as a blanket recommendation, and this has kind of gone through in the presiding judge section. We really recommend that you overrule most objections unless it's glaring. And that's just because we want the students to be able to ask their questions. We don't want every
sure.
single objection being sustained and then having to, pivot every single time. So we want the students to be able to make their case and compete. And so I would say at least 60% of the time be overruling the objections.
Yeah, that was my concern. So, okay,
Yeah.
that's that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, there's some objections that we see a lot. Here's the ones that the students have been instructed are possibilities. So these are the ones that they know to object on, that they know that they're allowed to object on, basically. So that's kind of gone through here, and some of the rules that they have as well are written through here. So that's what we provide to the judges. Like I said, you've got the full case materials and the rules if you're curious, but you don't have to read through those. This is really the only thing I expect everyone to read through is pages 1 through 13 of this bench brief, and really pages 9 through 13. So I really want everybody knowing this score information, what to expect from each student, so that the scores are as fair as they can be. And then that first page with all of the competition information. So that's what the information you all need to know. Like I said, both competitions will have coffee for the morning judges and bottled water for the afternoon judges and pizza for those that are staying all day. If anybody's got any other questions that we haven't already touched or haven't been thrown out there, please feel free to unmute or use the chat function, whatever it works best for you all. I'm happy to address anything else.
Hey Meredith, this is David. I know that I'm doing Kansas City, obviously,
Yep.
and the round starts at 1 o'clock. But do you want? Because I thought I read somewhere it said you wanted me there at 12. I don't need to be there at 12, do I?
No, no, that's definitely not necessary. Like I said, the rounds start at 8 in the morning is the morning session, and then 1 o'clock is the afternoon session. As long as you're there about 10 to 15 minutes before the round starts, so 12:45, 12:50, so that you can check in. I can give you your room assignment, and then you can head over there. That's fine. We're using the same courthouse and courtrooms for both competitions as we did last year. So for those of you coming back a second time, that will look very familiar. So the Kansas City competition, I believe, is mostly on the 3rd floor of the Wyandotte County Courthouse. Let me double check. And then
Last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the Wichita competition is on the 5th floor. So it'll entirely be on the 5th floor. Yeah, Kansas City is all the courthouses are on the 3rd floor except for one is on the mezzanine floor. And then the law library up another floor is where coffee, water, lunch, rest area will be. For the Wichita competition, I believe all of that is in the basement. Is it? Maybe it's on here. No, I'm not seeing it. Well, when you sign in, I haven't been to the Wichita competition before. So when you sign in with Ben and Morgan, they will tell you where all of that will be.
In Wichita, the jury room is on the 1st floor, so that's where the water and pizza will be, and all of the courtrooms will be on the 5th floor.
1st floor. Gotcha. Thank you.
Will we have to go through security?
Yes. Yep. But you can bring your own food, your own water. You can bring anything you need, your own coffee. You can bring anything you need. They won't be controlling that type of access. But yeah, we will have security guards present at both competitions. You will have to go through the metal detector and send your things through an X-ray machine.
Yeah, I just need to know whether to wear my belt or not. That's all.
Depends how early you get there, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, any other questions before we sign off?
Meredith, this is David again. Do you have enough judges for the morning session?
Let me see. In Kansas City, it looks like we have one round that will only have one judge in it, and every other round has two judges in it in Kansas City in the morning. We've got a little more flexibility in the afternoon.
Who are the judges in the morning in Kansas City?
I've got Patrick Gray, Adam Brewster, Garrett Relf, Maurice Brewer, Lisa Bauer, Mark Lodies, Rod Campen, Robert Armstrong, Keith Rankin, Stephen Ediger, Kristen Dvorak. That is the Kansas City AM list.
Right.
The only other thing I want to mention, and I think that's listed on here, is that students can't tell you what school they're with until the competition has fully concluded. So when you're giving your comments, chatting to students, if you've got enough time, that is one question you are forbidden from answering or asking is what school are you with? We just don't want any bias one way or the other. So kind of keeping an iron curtain on what school is what affiliation. When they arrive for the round, you will write their names on this. Well, it might not be the score sheet. It might be the comment sheet. They'll give you a roster and you'll write the team number, the room number, the round number, and their names next to their role before the round starts. So that's another thing that takes time. That's another reason why we want to make sure that when the round ends, we're leaving enough time to get them to the next round to start, because you have to go through that process. So just be aware again when the round ends to only give comments if you have time. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for volunteering. If you are available, we've got another the state competition is in Topeka. That's next month on the 28th at the Shawnee County Courthouse in Topeka. It's the exact same setup, 8 to noon, 1 to 5. So that same link that everybody sent out for signing up for this competition, you use that same link to sign up for the Topeka State competition. So you can sign up anytime between now and the competition. We would be happy to have some more judges for that one as well. So I hope you guys have a great experience this Saturday, and hope to see you next year as well.
Thanks, Meredith.